Hi everyone, hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for joining me for this video and welcome to Tarot by the Christmas Tree. I am your holly jolly host for this channel, Jason. This video is all about the hashtag called Christmas Tree Tarot, which was started by Candy, which I will put in her video in the description box below so you can check that out. Essentially, it is 9 prompts that kind of dissects your Christmas tree holiday season, what have you. The first prompt is the Dusty Attic deck, a deck that feels like a dusty attic full of treasure and secrets. So the deck that I pulled for this prompt is the lovely Dark Mansion Tarot. This deck is an indie deck that took me a while to get. It is a very Tim Burton-esque type of deck. It has really like Nightmare Before Christmas and Corpse Bride types of figures. So it's like really skinny figures with big heads. It's a world, folks. So the reason why I'm choosing for the Dusty Attic is because it has a very antique or vintage feel in terms of like the world. It's very Victorian. It's very cartoonish. It's very kind of like gothic. So it really reminds me of something that I would probably find in an attic full of treasure. And the deck is just, it's really otherworldly, and it's just, it really takes you into a different world. So of course, all these decks, instead of just showing you the cards, I feel like I should just put the actual video in the description box below so you can check out the entire walkthrough of these decks. The second prompt is the Christmas Tree Structure deck. Tell me about the key tarot structure you love. And the way Candy asked this is whether you are RWS gal, or you are Thoth, or Marseille. Honey, I am a strictly RWS type of gal because it is the one that I know. I know each system kind of is based off of the same system. You have the 4 suits, you have the major and the minor arcana, but this is how I started with the traditional RWS. This is the Centennial Edition. It is tradition artwork. It is the artwork that we know and love, but it has like a coffee type of stain to it, to all the cards. It's not a bright deck, which I really, the deck with the blue plaid backings, that is a very bright deck. So this is a more muted palette that I really find intriguing because it feels like this deck has been used, it's been loved, right? It just feels something that's been appreciated. The next prompt is the Tinsel deck, a deck that you get wrapped up in, and using it can make you forget about other decks. This, I could have chosen a couple different decks for this, but I have chosen the This Might Hurt Tarot deck. It is an indie deck for this one in any way, but it also came as a mass market, which was recent released. I chose this because it's a very safe deck. It's something that if you're not looking for a theme, you just really want something that's not that old stuffy traditional artwork that I really don't really appreciate, or I'm sorry, like. I go for a modern deck and these 2 decks, or this deck, doesn't have a theme. It is just a more modernized version of the traditional artwork. So I really find that appealing. I'm a modern gal, folks. The fourth prompt is the Bauble deck, a deck that keeps rolling around and turns up over and over in your practice as you reach for it all the time. The deck that I've chosen is actually Out of Hand Tarot. This is an indie deck, but I believe it is now out of print. I purchased this year, and it just recently went out of print a few weeks after I bought this. I chose this because if I want a deck that really draws me in, that makes me kind of see things from a first point perspective. It's very modern. It's really up close. So you're really only getting hands in the cards, which is, it's mind-blowing how that is so innovative and fresh, even though it's such a simple concept, but the way this actually executes it is fabulous. So when I'm thinking of bauble, I'm thinking of like jewelry. So I'm thinking of like a big ring that's really fancy. So I kind of took that and ran with it in terms of like having that in my hand. The next prompt is the Fairy Lights deck, a deck that sparkles. And I ultimately chose the Tarot of Oneness deck. This is another indie deck that is first person. But this deck, it has a variety of animals and people, so I really like that. But there is some type of filter on each of the cards where it kind of like makes your eyes wander, or it makes you look at something on the card that's not necessarily should be in focus or is in focus, and you kind of like want to like look at every inch, centimeter of the card to really get into that world, which could be a good thing or a bad thing for people. But this deck, it kind of works. This deck, it just seemed perfect for a kind of like a fairy light prompt, because when you think of a Christmas tree, I mean, your eyes wander. You have so much going on in a tree and just lights, and it's just, I think it's just a perfect deck for this prompt. The last prompt, which this one was a this was a prompt that was a little difficult, but when you think of the prompt, which is the tree topper deck, tell me about your tree topper and find a deck that reminds you of it. As you can see, a Santa hat is the tree topper of my tree, which can be a common thing, but I feel like it's not. You either have a star, or you have an angel, or you have some type of animal as your tree topper. So when I think of a deck that kind of correlates to a Santa hat, when I wear a Santa hat or any type of hat, I feel safe. The deck that I chose is my Grand Dame, the Everyday Witch Tarot. This deck has been with me since the early stages of my tarot journey. It is a modern deck, but it has a theme of witches and everyday witch moments and situations. It is a really lovely deck, folks. If all of my decks were gone and I just had this one, I would be super duper fine. This is my Grand Dame. It is almost perfect deck when it comes to my deck library. Whenever I want to grab a deck that's familiar, and I feel like even though I've been away from it for so long, like I have other decks in my library that I use, I can always come back to this and it always greets me with open arms. It's like we've never been apart, because I guess since I have a big connection to this type of deck and how the illustrations are like so, they're just so nostalgic, because this is one of the decks that I learned tarot with. That just kind of brings it full circle. Like I can just count on this deck to be reliable. Thank you so much for joining me for this video. Thank you to Candy for creating this really lovely festive hashtag that made me look at my Christmas tree a little bit more differently this holiday season. So thank you so much for joining me for this video. I hope you all have a safe and happy holiday season. And until next time, I will see you for my next video. Take care.